My name is Jeanette Stosky, and I'm AORE's Executive Director, and just thankful that you're taking your time to attend live if you're doing it that way, and if you're watching the recording, we're also glad that you're here today. So today we'll be talking about outdoors and mental health, current research on the wide benefits of nature and how to tap into these benefits. And super excited that Zelma brought this presentation forward and that we're able to host it. I know this is a conversation I've been hearing through the wings at outdoor retailer shows and things for the last decade or so, and especially in the military space and hearing about that. So I'm really curious as I listen to the session today, what you're bringing forward and what you're learning to expand my body of knowledge as well. So welcome to this. All right, so as we start off our virtual and our in-person, just a reminder of AORE's inclusive values. So we welcome diversity and we aim to be accessible and inclusive and work to remove barriers to participation. And we want to be an organization that's reflective of our current and expanding community, specifically the outdoor community. As an association, both the volunteers and paid individuals who guide the association, we're continuing to evaluate and reconcile our roles in perpetuating and dismantling systems of oppression that exist within the association itself and in our industry. So we're going to continue to work on greater diversity, equity, inclusion, both internally and as an organization externally, how our members can help facilitate change in their program. We know a lot of people come to the association because you have a leadership role and you can be an agent of change wherever you work and whatever community that you're impacting. Inside of our association, we continue to make sure we promote involvement, innovation, and expand access to leadership opportunities to maximize engagement across identity groups. We want everyone to know there's a space for everyone at the association. We continue to advocate on diversity-related public policy issues that affect AORE member programs operations, and we want to provide tools and resources to cultivate a culture of inclusiveness, collaborative practice, and innovation in the outdoor recreation education field. So again, just a reminder of our inclusive value, and thank you for partaking with us. Our land acknowledgement. So again, I mentioned a little earlier, it sounds like Zelma also is from the Midwest. So I'm calling in from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and that's where we base our land acknowledgement. So we want to honor and pay respects to the land on which we live and work, which was violently stolen through colonialism, genocide, and forced removal of our traditional stewards. These stewards in my area is the Nishwa, Isudan, Anasabe, the Three Fires people, who are Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, along with our neighbors, Seneca, Delaware, Shawnee, and Wyandot Nation. So I also want to acknowledge the people of African descent who were forcibly removed from their land and separated from their families through kidnapping and enslavement, and pay reverence and respect for them to building this country's infrastructure and economy with no compensation or reparations to date. Again, we've borrowed this land acknowledgement and our speaking points from ERACCE, Eliminating Racism and Creating to Celebrate Equity. And there's a link there on the slide if you are curious to learn more. I want to thank Columbia Sportswear for their continued support and sponsorship for programming that we can offer this to all of you and continue to move these messages forward. So thank you so much for that. And our last couple slides here, just a reminder. So again, this is a webinar. You are able to use the chat function. Rebecca and I will be managing that. We'll be bringing things forward as we go if we need to. If not, we'll hold them for the end. If there'll be some Q&A opportunities. Just reuse this acronym of respect. So please take responsibility for what you say and feel without blaming others. Use empathetic listening. Please be sensitive to differences in communication styles. Ponder what you hear and feel before you speak. Examine your own assumptions and perceptions. Please keep confidentiality and trust ambiguity because we're not here to debate who's right or wrong. All right, all these words. So let's get started. If you're willing to put into the chat box here, if you want to share with us your name and maybe where you're joining from. I know, again, if you're live from all across the United States and perhaps overseas today, and if you know whose lands you're on currently, that'd be great if you want to share that. And if there's something in particular that brings you to this call, I think that's just something that both us association is interested in, and some of that might be of interest to you as well if you can see those. So as I do the introduction and turn the slides over, if people want to drop that in the chat box, that would be great because we'd like to know who you are and where you're calling in from. All right, so we're going to meet our presenter. So Zelma, we're speaking right before the session, is a multidisciplinary professional specializing in mental and behavioral health, outdoor adventure psychology, and whole body health. So all that combination, high intensity academic environments, University of Chicago, which I keep on referring from the Midwest plane here, and University of Cambridge. So again, bringing this body of knowledge forward, the diverse skills to help others on their journey to become the best version of themselves through nature, science, and community. So I'm just going to stop there because I know there'll be another chance for Zelma to introduce and take the floor here as we go into this session. Thank you all for being here and welcome aboard.
Thanks, Janet. Really appreciate that introduction. As I load my screen, I do want to give a quick thanks to not only AORE as a whole, but Janet for having me here and Rebecca for helping me throughout this whole process, as this is my first webinar with y'all. So super excited to be here. Just want to make sure that you can all see my slides. Is that accurate? A little thumbs up. Awesome, great. Again, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited. A little bit more about myself. So my name is Zulma, or ZY Terrones. I have a background of over 10 years in outdoor experiential learning with a variety of age groups, from the ages of 3 all the way to about 65, 68. So again, a wide breadth of population experience in the outdoors, learning and really promoting health benefits. In addition to that, I also have over 5 years in behavioral health research and about 3 years in clinical mental and behavioral health. So really trying to synthesize all of this into my current endeavor. So I'm also the founder of Life Stages. We're an outdoor health startup where, again, we're really trying to promote the connection to nature and wellness for all stages of life. So I'm really excited to dive into these health benefits. How does nature promote health benefits at any and every stage in life? Let me go to the next slide. We're going to start by defining what I mean by outdoor health, as it will help understand how we'll be approaching mental health and general wellness in the outdoors. When I say outdoor health, I'm using it to refer to an outdoor activity or structured setting that promotes personal growth and development. These must be guided by licensed, certified, or otherwise trained holistic outdoor wellness professionals, as outdoor recreation is not the same as outdoor health, though they definitely share health benefits, aspects, and roots. I'll discuss a little bit more in a little bit. Outdoor health typically centers health, personal values, personal character, and pro-social behavior, typically through a nature-based adventure, sensory experience, or experiential learning, or learning through experiences, and with a holistic mind, body, social, emotional, and environmental lens. Overall, outdoor health places an emphasis on experiential learning and uses the inherent value of nature / the outdoors to promote well-being through individual or group-based processes with specific populations. I'll note that the term outdoor health is preceded by, and therefore has shared roots with, wilderness therapy, which is also known under the wider umbrella of outdoor behavioral health, and encompasses counseling and mental / behavioral health therapy received in the great outdoors. Wilderness therapy / outdoor behavioral health has its own unique history, approaches, and concerns that we won't necessarily dive into this session, but I do want to emphasize the deep connection there. So again, as I mentioned earlier, outdoor recreation is not necessarily the same as outdoor health. In this figure, you'll find 4 main outdoor adventure modalities, from recreation to education and development, all the way to therapy. Each targets 4 specific areas of change and growth, including feelings, thinking, behavior, and clinical resistance, respectively. These modalities are progressive in that the preceding outdoor adventure sector requires more facilitation skills, targets more nuanced objectives, and builds off the previous sector aims. I do want to underscore that each of these 4 sectors requires its own specialized instructor facilitation skills and targeted activities in order to effectively generate desired participant outcomes in these targeted populations. Outdoor therapy is the tip of outdoor health, yet it does not encompass all of it. Outdoor health, I see, is as an intentional synthesis of all of these sector objectives into one holistic lens. And because of these early and individual sectors, we have so much evidence-based research on the benefits of the outdoors. Before we dive into that, let's go into our first reaction poll. I know that y'all have been typing into the chat box, and I see a little bit of the background that y'all have. I also would love to see just a little quick emojis so we can get a quick sense of who we have here in terms of sectors. So if you are in outdoor education, why don't you react with a thumbs up on your Zoom emojis? If you're in outdoor development, you can use the gaping face, the surprise face, outdoor therapy, the laughing, crying face, and then outdoor health, the heart. Okay, I see a couple of thumbs up. I saw, yep, some more thumbs up, some clapping. Let's see, the crying face. So outdoor therapy, outdoor ed, outdoor development. Amazing. Yeah, we have a good variety. I'm excited. And I'm sure, you know, we can come back to this question at the end to see if any of this has changed as we keep learning about outdoor health as well. Anyway, let's continue. A lot of earlier outdoor health benefits, a lot of the outdoor health / benefit findings and research was conducted around outdoor education and wilderness, as I mentioned, as well as its countless other modalities, such as outdoor adventure therapy, outdoor adventure education, outdoor experiential learning, bush therapy, wilderness experiential programs, etc. These early outdoor sectors provided a plethora of initial health and wellness correlations, especially around personal development. Among them, it showed that there was improved self-efficacy, confidence and self-esteem, independence, social and school functioning skills, leadership skills, a reduction in depressive symptoms, increased self-concept and locus of control, as well as increased self-awareness, just to name a few. At the end of this presentation, a bibliography is provided where you can follow up in your own time to dive deeper into these outcomes. For now, however, I'm going to do a quick chat group question. In the chat, I just kind of want to learn a little bit about us as we continue learning how outdoor promotes wellness, and also learn just how we all relate to nature. If you can please type in the chat box how you experience benefits in nature. What does it mean to experience a benefit in nature for you, or how you see participants that you work with benefiting from nature? I'll start us off as people are typing off. I honestly get a sense of recalibration and peace when I'm in nature. My cognitive load, I feel, is able to refresh. My mind feels resettled. I'm able to see things from a new perspective. I feel whole. I feel at peace. Yes, thanks, Rebecca. Okay, and Taylor, you say that your participants are able to de-stress. They have a connection to nature, so they feel connected to nature and a sense of belonging. Yes, I hear that a lot, that sense of belonging especially. Javon, I hope I'm pronouncing all these names correctly. Perspective, sense of self, connection to plants and animals, and a better understanding of your place. Yes, definitely. The nature, the world is such I guess the environmental landscape as a whole is such a great way to question who you are. What's your role in the world? How does the world connect with you? Jessa, grounding, above all listed in the previous slide. Definitely. Love above all else listed in the previous slide. Gotcha. Yep, definitely. A lot of grounding in nature, a lot of social emotional well-being. And Sarah, your anxiety is significantly reduced. We're gonna dive deeper into that. I am so thankful that you wrote that in, Sarah. A sense of connection from Tom, calm and consolation. And then finally, Angie, also calm and grounded. So I see a lot of interconnected benefits that we share. Okay, so one more before we continue. What's your favorite way to engage participants outdoors? And again, this is going to help us. I'm kind of scaffolding us because later on, as we continue diving into the health correlations of nature, we'll have some breakout rooms where I'll give you a little assignment and you'll put into practice what we've been learning. So again, this is just so that we can all learn and see what our common ground is, and also maybe potentially our differences. What's your favorite way to engage your participants outdoors? I'll tell you, most recently I've been out of the facilitation game, but most recently I've been leading hikes again, and that's been quite a great way to reconnect with nature for all abilities, for all capabilities, in all ages. So it's been really nice to connect with people that way through hiking. Okay, Rebecca, multi-day trips and adventures. You also like being on water and hiking. I love water sports. Community building through shared first-time experiences. Yes, first-time experiences helps create bonds, help create a sense of awe, which as adults, sometimes we tend to have less and less moments of. So it's an amazing way. Jessa, challenge coursework combined with therapeutic nature connection practices, sensory trail walks, nature art. Yes, those mindfulness practice incorporated. I love all this. We're going to touch back on some of these in a bit. Let's continue. Okay, so why the outdoors and mental health? An overview of the widely seen benefits of nature and mental health. We saw in the first slide, all the social emotional benefits. And we've also, as we've seen, have identified some in ourselves in these last little poll questions. But really, the reality is that the global and national state of health and well-being is in crisis. 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness each year, with 1 in 6 US youth ages 6 through 17 also experiencing a mental health disorder each year. 60% of Americans report feeling lonely, with the US national average screen time at over 7 hours per day, changing the way people spend their time and socialize on a daily basis. All in all, there's an estimated global cost of mental health of $2.5 trillion, which is expected to rise to $6 trillion by 2030. In the US alone, we spend $225 billion in mental health care costs. That's not to mention the $47.6 billion lost in work productivity. These are huge, astounding numbers, and without a proper solution, will only get worse. Again, I really do see nature as a preventative health solution. So not even as a reactive, but a preventative, right? Before, what can we do to impede this worsening mental health crisis? Outdoor programming has a history of using non-clinical and comprehensive community-based contexts to bring about therapeutic outcomes, whether officially or unofficially. Given the right support and parameters, community-based outdoor programs can be a cost-efficient and widely applicable option to support public mental health and social well-being, and that can easily be integrated into people's everyday lives. This is a critical potential solution as poor mental health and well-being is associated with lower educational attainment, unemployment, health-harming behaviors, poor access to health services, thereby substantially influencing an individual's quality of life, level of general attainability, i.e. personal potential and success, and contribution to society. By reconnecting or even connecting someone for the first time to nature in an intentional, safe, and guided way, we can create a strong baseline of self-concept, as well as a wellness and nature inclination that can help them continue to promote their own health and personal development outside of our own didactic environment that we've created. In other words, create a more intrinsic connection to health and nature. A prime example of an experiential community-based preventative/intervention program is the Incredible Year Suite. The IY Suite is designed to promote broad social, self-efficacy skills. This includes problem-solving skills, social-emotional learning, and regulation. The suite has the potential to improve pro-social behavior and peer relations in children with psychiatric diagnosis of conduct disorders. It covers a wide span of years from 0 to 12 and has integrated modalities not only for the student, but also for the parent/guardian and the teacher, i.e. the support network of the child. The IY Suite turned out to be an incredibly successful and cost-effective community-based preventative health solution. Specifically, it evidenced improved social relations and self-regulation skills between adults and the vulnerable children they cared for, as well as produced clinically significant results in children's behavior. Remember, these are children with psychiatric conduct disorders. And so having an experiential learning model in their community with their everyday support networks, their teachers and their parents, produced not only clinically significant results for them, but also improved how these teachers, how these adults, how these parents were showing up for the children and improve their own social emotional IQ. The IY Suite, while not an outdoor health solution per se, is definitely an experiential health solution and based on experiential learning, right? Learning through experiences that shows that structured evidence-based models within the community setting can be as, if not more effective than traditional clinical solutions for health and well-being. I'm going to quickly just go to the IY website just to give you an overview. The programs are divided super clearly into child, teacher, and parenting, and there's a variety of different modules. And again, you'll have access to these slides, so you'll be able to, in your own time, kind of explore what that model actually looks like. But wanted to highlight it as an evidence of what's actually in the real world right now. Okay, so as I'm sure we all know, and as the literature also evidences, promoting specific outcomes in the outdoors is definitely doable, but may be challenging due to inter and intrapersonal dynamics, as well as the participants' own understanding to themselves and the curriculum. Okay, this is going to be our first breakout session before we dive deeper into specific promoters of health. So what in the environment and what in specific outdoor programming creates specific outcomes. And the reason that I'm doing it this way, so we'll have 2 breakout sessions. And in this first session, we're just currently going to use the current knowledge and skills that we have in the group's toolbox. So working in groups of 3 or pairs, depending on how many people are here in the live webinar, you'll create an extracurricular program for any age of your choosing that focuses on a specific outcome. And, you know, it's only, we're going to have a breakout room for 10 minutes, so I don't expect anything super comprehensive, but just work together to identify some basics, maybe the target groups, maybe the format of the program, maybe the specific goals or objectives that you're aiming for, how you're trying to achieve those goals, and what are potential barriers to these goals. So we'll come back in 10 minutes, and then we'll, in the bigger group, discuss what we've learned from one another and what those programs might look like. Rebecca, feel free to break us out, and then again, we'll come back in 10 minutes.
It should prompt you. Doing all right, Jeanette?
Yeah, I just want to make sure you were good. I know that we're both kind of probably both working and watching. You're good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything for me?
Nope.
These things are maddening. I'll let you do your thing.
Okay.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back to this main group. I was in a group with Jessa and Tom, and we had a lot of great things to talk about. So what I want to do right now is also give an opportunity for groups. You can choose just kind of popcorn volunteer, maybe have a takeaway. What do you want to share with the wider group? Is it the program that you were hoping to achieve? Is it a particular activity that you were hoping to incorporate into that programming? Is it the overall objective? Some major takeaway or something that you want to share with the wider group? Who wants to go first? Tom or Jessa, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I did think that the conversation that y'all were having was pretty insightful and amazing. Do any of you want to offer something to the group? I can also summarize, but
Yeah, I'm happy. I was just actually trying to type it into the chat so I could let other people go as needed. Yeah, our conversation guided us towards the centering around how do we address loneliness and how we take the animals, the plants, the creatures that exist even in our own backyards, and find ways to help people recognize that those plants, those animals, those creatures have things to share with us and to help us feel less alone. uh, we engaged in a discussion a lot about like teaching people to be curious and explore even like that blade of grass that's popped up between their pieces of concrete on their sidewalk, right? Like what kind of message does that give us about endurance and strength and all of those kinds of things. So I think the when we finally settled into it, the program discussion was about giving people the tools to reflect, observe, and acknowledge not like what that tree is or what kind of bird that is, but like who is that bird, who is that tree, and what can they teach us, and how does it help us better connect to our world and feel a little less alone.
Mhm. And Jessa, to that, I'd simply want to add what I really appreciated the thought that you gave me. My thought was I want to invite everybody into my backyard and or into some kind of shared common space where we could do that as a group. But I think this is something that we could actually have an online discussion, that it could be incorporated into some kind of format where we can talk about that, share tools and ways to connect with the outdoors, even in our backyard, but also to share our own personal experience of how we feel connected. And that way, even if we are have some accessibility issues or disability issues, people could join in an online format, and then they take that with them as they find ways to connect personally in nature. But this also would address the issue of isolation and aloneness by using electronic format like this. So that speaks to barriers as well as ways to overcome and deal with some of them too. So I think I could work with that. I think I could come up with something and make it into a program and make it accessible to people. So cool.
I'll add, we had something similar when we were all shut down and not sure if we could leave our homes. And we did a lot of work where we had people go take pictures of things that they were looking at and then reflecting on them and throw them up into a Google slide deck. And it was really wonderful. So if you all are hearing that and thinking about how do you procedurally make that functional.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Thank you both for sharing it. It seems like a lot of great ideas as well. How do we actually incorporate nature in a very practical, very accessible way? Great ideas. Before we shift, anyone else want to share from a different group? Add a little more insight.
Javon and I also talked about connection, but we talked about how I work with freshman students and how kind of the disruptive experience of transitioning to college can kind of make you feel outside of yourself. And but when we're in nature, we can reconnect with our bodies and experiencing ourselves in nature And we talked about potentially incorporating like a journaling exercise where before going on like a group hiking trip, students could write something about how they're feeling, and then they can write again afterwards and compare those and see like, did this activity help me? Does this group hiking trip like make me feel better? And if so, they know a place where they can go back and hike again.
Love that. Love that. And I love the incorporation of the mindfulness too, right? So, and the reflection portion. So being mindful of having an activity, a sensory activity that incorporates nature as well, and having a reflection piece of, okay, what is my connection? How am I feeling before, after? So again, kind of really priming the mind to its benefits and just to its openness, or being open to nature. Really appreciate that, Sarah. Thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen again, and then we'll continue on. Before I continue, actually, I do want to highlight that a lot of the activities and just a lot of the pieces that of you have already identified, we're going to return to. We'll see that a lot of the research also highlights some of these activities or highlights some of these takeaways. So happy for that. Thank you again for sharing, everyone. So what does the science say about promoting outcomes in nature for diverse populations? There are some general takeaways that we can all keep in mind as we're designing, funding, advocating for, or otherwise supporting outdoor experiential learning. And these are, as a whole, 120 minutes per week, or about 2 hours per week outside, is the minimum needed for folks to significantly obtain wellness benefits. And that is a range of social, emotional, and psychological benefits. Nature positively impacts the parasympathetic nervous system and literally helps one physically relax and alleviates the mind. This includes relieving psychological tension, anxiety, depression, anger, fatigue, and confusion. Viewing and walking in a forest have similar effects. Therefore, simply being in greenery. So by forest, I don't necessarily mean a whole wooded landscape. I do mean a green space. So that is, in terms of terminology, something that I do want to highlight. And normally we'll call that forest bathing. So being in green and enjoying it can produce a reduction in the stress hormone cortisol in as little as 12 to 16 minutes. So again, viewing or walking through greenery can reduce your stress hormone cortisol in as little as 12 to 16 minutes. Though when you combine it with being in nature, when you combine physical movement with being in nature, you're not only getting the social, emotional, and mental benefits, but you're also improving your physical health and strengthening those additional wellness benefits. In terms of environmental factors, there is research that correlates specific mental health conditions or symptoms and specific environmental/landscape factors. And these include high elevation forests with low atmospheric pressure has been correlated with statistically significant reduction in depression symptoms. Similarly, relative low illumination, so low light in forested areas, has been correlated again with a statistically significant reduction in anger. Low relative humidity in forested areas has been correlated with a statistically significant reduction in psychological fatigue. So again, a lot of clinical mental health benefits with specific environmental landscapes. Though before I continue to the next screen, I do want to emphasize that there is still a lot of black box research that needs to be done as to why some of these health benefits are produced, whether it's the environmental landscape or whether it's specific amounts of times or types of activities spent in nature. There is still a lot of unknown as to why specifically the humans react this way. There's a lot of theories, such as the biophilic theory, where we're just inherently connected to nature. Therefore, internally, our processes are attuned and benefit from being in nature. Though again, there's still a lot of research and unknown, but a lot of great technology and minds tackling these questions already. So I'm sure in a few years, we'll have a lot more knowledge as well. So again, kind of general influencing factors for outcomes. There are other important factors that influence outdoor health outcomes as a whole for any outdoor curriculum, really. And one of them is supporting a sense of autonomy in participants. What does that mean? It means nurturing their human agency within the world structures and constraints so that they feel they have control and decision-making power. This can be achieved through a multitude of ways, from offering options and activities, to highlighting people's perspectives and voices, to having people step in leadership roles. Really, what we want to do is find ways to connect people, the participants, to the curriculum, the programming, and the cohort members. So again, that they feel like they have control and decision-making power. Another is supporting progress through experiential learning. So again, experiencing the world and constructing one's knowledge of the world as a result of interacting with it. So there are different learning modalities for different people, but one thing that we do see the research indicate, especially with nature and the outdoors, is learning through experience, learning through touching, the senses, feeling, etc. So really diving into the sensory experience of being in the world and learning by doing. And as we all know, this is pretty easily done in the outdoors as you engage and learn, but it does go beyond the curriculum and simply just being outdoors. A big aspect of learning through experience is being able to have time for structured and unstructured experiential learning. So how do we give participants, again, time to learn the curriculum that we have planned for them, and also just simply enjoy being in nature? Furthermore, the space for reflecting on actions and experiences is needed for individuals to internalize their experiences and make intentional, conscious connections. This can be facilitated, guided, or otherwise independently reflected upon. This idea of self-reflection of our actions and experiences ties to personal perspective and understanding, which is the lived experiences, understanding, and framing we all individually have and approach the world through. I really like to say that there is no one reality, but a multitude of realities. We all experience the world and live in our own reality, and then we all try to come together and create some mutual understanding of the worlds that we have. So really trying to honor that in our curriculum, in the way we approach the group dynamics. Having intentional reflection helps us as facilitators guide takeaways and connections that might otherwise be missed by the participants. The flip side is true as well. Participants also have introspective moments of clarity where they can fill in gaps for us as facilitators to better connect them with the curriculum and the goals before, during, and after the outdoor engagement. So a thing that I, again, like to highlight is how do we not only facilitate and guide, but let the participants facilitate and guide us. And that ties back into the autonomy piece, right? The sense of nurturing their own agency. Personal perspective and understanding also influences and can be influenced by group dynamics. This is another piece of the puzzle that can significantly impact the way an individual understands and approaches their outdoor health journey. Having positive group dynamics is crucial when trying to create individual outcomes in a group setting. Creating clear shared goals, objectives, intentions, problem-solving techniques, conflict resolution approaches, and otherwise just general experiences in a way that the whole group can relate to in a way, or that they have a mutual shared understanding and approach can really help create significant cohesive group dynamics. The group dynamic piece, I feel, is sometimes a little less highlighted when we're trying to create curriculum or outcomes for outdoor programs. I think we're all super aware that group dynamics are crucial, and also how do we make sure to promote those group dynamics, especially when there's a difference of needs or a difference of realities, as I was saying, of understandings of the world. So being intentional from the very get-go of how are we going to create cohesiveness? How are we going to create mutual understanding and bonding? How are we going to create a shared experience together is going to be crucial. Okay, so this is our second breakout room, and we're going to do something very similar to the first, except now we have a little more in our toolbox. We know a couple of the environmental correlations, a couple of the wellness research in terms of outdoor programming, what promotes general outcomes. So again, I'm going to have Rebecca break us out into breakout rooms, and now we're going to kind of go back to our program or maybe create a new one, come with new objectives, maybe new activities with how to approach an outdoor program with particular objectives. I'll see you back in 10 minutes again. Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining again. So I was back, I think we were all back in our original groups. So I was back with Tom and Jessa and was privileged enough to have another enlightened conversation with both of them. Also want to use this space to again highlight some of the things that we got from our group this round. So Jessa, Tom, I invite you to highlight. I heard a lot of more, I don't want to say new, but maybe more in-depth things coming, some newer activities that I didn't know that I'm going to add to my toolbox. I would love for you to share whatever you'd want with the group.
If this is my invitation to share human camera, I'm happy to do so.
Go for it, Jessa.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking about how, as we were having a discussion about what our goals were, I was reminded of an activity that I love to do where the idea is that people form pairs in your group, and then one person stays with the facilitator and the other person like wanders within a boundaried space to discover something that they appreciate, something they find beautiful, something in nature that that sparks their interest. They then return to their partner with their eyes closed, therefore essentially engaging in a short trust walk with the partner that's gone off. The partner that's gone off walks them to that space, presents them, kind of sits them in front of whatever that thing is, and then asks them to open their eyes for a brief moment and just take a look at what they saw or what they were hoping to see. And then the walk back includes this discussion about, well, here's what I was trying to get you to see. Here's what you ended up seeing. How do our different perspectives influence the different ways that we saw things? And then 40 million other narratives you could pull from that as a facilitator. So that's the short, cute version.
Thanks, Jess. I really appreciate that. And Tom, you had a really great way of creating a common understanding or mutual understanding in the group around language specifically. Would love if you'd like to speak to the group about it.
Well, I was just thinking about this specific place where I live, which is part of what's called the driftless region, and I think that's the what I can contribute to that beautiful idea is for the facilitator to understand and know the history of the place, which in this particular region, there is the story of the indigenous people and them being moved off of this property in this land, and specifically the Black Hawk War. The early European settlers here, those kind of stories, as well as understanding the flora and fauna of the place, knowing the rocks that we stand on, and that way it helps to connect people to the larger narrative. So in the human camera, you've got the personal narrative, and then we're able to connect them further by the facilitator being able to contribute something to that conversation with regards to the specifics of that place.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate that. Any other group wants to share a takeaway or something that they feel might be useful for the group? All right, no worries. We'll keep going. Let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. All right. So we're almost coming to a close, but this is something that I also heard in my breakout room with Tom and Jessa, which was this idea or this question of how do we take the concept of nature or the outdoors into our everyday lives? How do we bring it back closer to home? And also, how do we make wellness and outdoor adventure, or this concept of outdoor adventure, practical in our everyday lives, right? How do we bring skills or techniques or activities so that we can work on this regularly, not just whenever we sign up for an outdoor program curriculum? So again, making it more accessible, making it more at home. So in this kind of mindset, I want to equip you all with some basic mental health tools that you can do outdoors or almost anywhere for that matter, and that can be used for a wide range of ages and needs. So the first one, as I mentioned in one of our earlier slides, was forest bathing, or simply being in greenery, which will automatically trigger parasympathetic benefits. The second one is mindfulness. So this idea of connecting with your senses, this idea of simply being. So the way I define mindfulness is the practice of paying close and purposeful attention in the present moment, using our senses without bias or judgment, and with the goal of enjoying and simply being. So we can do a mindfulness in nature and everywhere, really, through a multitude of ways. And usually this is, or a couple of prime examples that are popular as well, and mainstream, are meditation, breath work, and sensory activities like arts and crafts, or even the third option here, journaling. So before we go into the third option, journaling, though, I do want to practice a quick mindfulness exercise with you all. So we're going to do a breath work technique called box breathing. Does anyone know, or has anyone done a box breathing exercise before? Yes, awesome. So a couple of hands up. Awesome. So this is an easy, practical way to ground yourself, to tune in. And then I'll also offer another option, but we're just going to tune in right now, and we're going to practice some box breathing. So box breathing is also known as square breathing, and it's used by a variety of high stress professionals, including Navy SEALs, to regulate their sympathetic or fight and flight response system. So we'll engage. I'll lead us through a little breathing exercise. Feel free to keep your camera on or off, and I encourage you to close your eyes. Find a comfortable seated position where your back is upright, yet not strained, feels comfortable, not painful, where your soles of the feet are grounded, flat on the floor, and you can really feel the ground supporting you. So again, inviting you to close your eyes, and then slowly breathe in. The goal of box breathing is that you're regulating your breath in specific intervals in and out. So we're going to choose a 3-second interval. And so for 3 seconds, we'll inhale in, hold for 3 seconds, inhale out for 3 seconds, pause for 3 seconds, and then redo that cycle again. And we'll do at our own pace 3 cycles of 3-second breaths in, pausing, breaths out, pausing, and I'll guide us through that. So breathing in for 3, 3, 2, 1, pause for 3, 2, 1, exhaling for 3, 2, 1, pausing for 3, 2, 1, exhaling for 3, 2, 1, pausing for 3, 2, 1, inhaling for 3, 2, 1, pausing for 3, 2, 1, and last exhale for 3, 2, 1. How did that feel for people? This one was a little more rapid. Usually it's between 4 to 6 seconds, but I didn't want to hold us for that long. Awesome. So some people really enjoyed it. Nice. Another mindfulness option that you can do is the 5 senses activity. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of it, but it's Tom, I see a nod. Would you like to let me know how you know 5 senses? I know that there's a couple of varieties, but I'd love to know.
So yeah, and I think the other thing about box breathing and 5 senses, is that it's pretty easy to do a search online to get the copies of it. But I have a little emoji kind of card that I give to my clients so they can take it with them. But and it's 5. Sorry, I can't even name them all. Using the 5 senses and looking for 5 things. Help me out, anybody. four things that you can touch, 3 things that you can
Hear,
hear, 2 things that you can
smell,
smell, 1 thing that you can taste, right? I
taste.
mean, so I'm not quite sure of the order off the top of my head. That's why I have the little cheat sheet, because it helps me as well as the clients, but it's easy to take with you. So it's easy to find, but it really does help you get engaged. It's one thing to tell somebody, well, go for a walk, or suggest to someone, it's helpful to go for a walk in nature, but to give them some structure in order to do that, so that they're more engaged in the environment rather than just in their thoughts in the environment.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes. And that's what we kind of want to do, right? Is kind of guide the experience of how can we connect the person in their own way to their own body and to the physical environmental landscape around them. So thanks for that, Tom. Really appreciate that. And so the last little tool that I have here is journaling. And again, if y'all remember one of your earlier slides, that connects to that action and reflection, but also to the senses, right? So how am I placing myself in the environmental landscape, reflecting, having opportunities to reflect on that, having opportunities to reflect to their own experience within their internal self, with their physical body, with their cohort members, and with even just new experiences that they had. So again, having that time to take action and then reflect and then internalize it through journaling, which also taps into that mindful sensory aspect of writing as well. So if we can do a quick little emoji poll using your reactions, what current mental health tools that I've mentioned here do you currently use? If you use forest bathing, clap the hands. If you do mindfulness, throw a heart. If you do journaling, throw a thumbs up. And if you do another, maybe the shock face. So we have mindfulness, we have forest bathing, journaling, some more for forest bathing, and some more journaling. Amazing. A good mix. Nice. So right here, we've reached kind of the end. This is a bibliography. And as I mentioned, y'all all have access to the slides after this. I'll follow up via email, but also here is the QR code where you can simply scan if you have your camera, and it'll take you to a website on the life stages. So my outdoor health website, and there's a particular page just for all of you where you have an opportunity to download the slides. And then you'll also have an opportunity to join Inner Sanctum, which is our online community and education platform. And that also has a special AORE section with more mindfulness tools, practical activities, etc., that you can just come back to, pull from, use as needed. It was in the spirit even before I heard some of the feedback. So I'm super happy to hear the feedback in the webinar. But as I was preparing this webinar, I really wanted to have takeaways that all of you can carry or practice or play around with in your own practice. So it was super important for me to have at least access to Inner Sanctum for all of you, which is a quick, you can think of it like a content library / education library. So you can really dive into wellness topics if you want. It's growing out, so be patient, but the goal is to just make mental health and connection to nature as accessible to everyone anywhere. So right now I'll just have an opportunity for Q&A as well. I'll keep this screen on so that, again, you can quickly access it, but definitely opening to the floor for any questions or comments, anything y'all would want to tune in with.
Hi, I'm going to jump in. I didn't say much.
Hi, Javon. I think you might have cut out. We can't hear you. Not sure what's going on.
Javon, if you can hear us, maybe you can type your question in the chat or just try again. I'm not getting a low signal or anything right now, but Well, that's got to be frustrating for we'll watch that, and maybe there's another question as we figure out the technology here.
Definitely. I do want to point out, Jessa, you put in the chat that you're also a fan of fistful of sound. So holding up 5 fingers and slowly putting them down as you hear new noises on your walk. And then pausing to take a deep breath once a fist is made. I love that one. That one's a great one. Thanks for sharing that one. Any other questions or anything that you want to chime in with for the group discussion?
Hi, this is Javon. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I may have been talking over you a second ago. Okay, nobody heard that. Okay, beautiful. So my mic was messed up. All right. So I'm really excited. One, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. This has been, I'm trying to get some programming off the ground that's specific to getting people of color back outdoors and reframing the outdoors for them. And one of the things I'm asking about is really how to really think about trauma and trauma-informed care in the outdoor realm and what that looks like. Because we're really kind of fighting kind of an uphill climb to get people into the space. And so I'm just kind of wondering what maybe research have you seen or what have you heard that's helpful for kind of thinking about outdoors and people of color?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Devon. Really, really important question, to be honest. So my background, personally, I fall under the people of color umbrella. I'm Latinx, born in Mexico. And one of my own personal anecdotal experiences is also just connecting to nature, which I feel like has been a thread that I found in communities of color is a late connection to nature, a late connection, meaning not as early, not in young adulthood, but maybe later as adults, finding that connection to the self and nature. I've worked in a lot of nonprofits whose mission is to get BIPOC / people of color outdoors. And one of the things we always find as a barrier, as you were mentioning, is actually having a safe space to go outdoors. So I live in California currently, but I'm originally from Chicago, and being in nature looks so many different ways in so many different communities. In Chicago, that looked like for a lot of BIPOC communities, enjoying the lake, going to the lake and grilling, going out and enjoying a game of basketball, a game of volleyball, a game of soccer. And of course, the great outdoors has different definitions. For some, it's hiking, mountaineering, canyoning, doing these like great wilderness adventure sort of modalities. But I do want to highlight the challenge of finding a community that feels safe and also that feels accessible for different communities. Because again, there's that reality that we all come from different realities, right? That we all have different understandings and different approaches to life. But one thing that I would suggest, and that I also do whenever I'm taking just populations that either have very little experience in nature or maybe have some trauma around nature, is trying to find partners in nature. So what are the parks, what are the local outdoor organizations that want to have quote unquote diverse populations outdoors, whose missions support the goal of having BIPOC folks outdoors. So really trying to create a support network of people that can help you gain access to those places, but also that can be thought partners. That's going to be super important. Thought partners, support systems, because it is, as you were mentioning, a pretty uphill battle. And it has unique challenges that you encounter as someone trying to increase that access space. Another thing that I would really recommend is trying to find how people are actually connecting or understanding nature currently. So who are you taking outdoors? What if there is trauma? What is that trauma? What does it look like? Is it You know, for some people, and I'll just pull from my own professional experience, for some, it's literally being called out, going on a hike and then someone calling them out like, hey, are you from the community? What are you doing here? And that's super traumatizing, right? You think, oh, I'm in a public state park. Why are you singling me out? So just examples like that. So what is the particular trauma that the person is coming with? And how does that connect with the wider cohort? That's going to be important. And then to that, I would also recommend in combining those two initial tips, the partners that you're trying to network with, the partners that you're trying to get to be mentor, support, thought partners, try to see if any of them can also be trauma informed. Do they have some sort of clinical health background? How can they maybe help facilitate some of those experiences? I'm also happy to be a thought partner. So I'll again send an email afterwards, and I'm super happy to either, in whatever way possible, help you problem solve, try to come up with solutions, because it's a definite, you know, very close to heart space and concern for me as well. I'm not sure that helped, but hopefully it provided some insight, Javon.
Yeah, that freaking helped. I'm not sure that helped. Of course that helped. That was beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love all the things and really to what you said, naming and honoring that trauma and looking for that in the partners. I appreciate that. Beautiful stuff. I'll back out now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Javon. Really appreciate the question. Anyone else?
I just wanted to ask, maybe one level up as far as my lane, maybe from a national standpoint. Are you seeing conversations open up that you had not seen prior to the pandemic around mental health and conversations, and just in your lane of expertise? Have you seen things shift? And I'm just curious if you could just speak to that, right? And I just I'm just curious about that.
Definitely. I would say there's been a huge shift since the pandemic, just in mainstream social awareness and acceptance and understanding. And you can even see it in just the influx of mainstream wellness services like Calm or Headspace or Noom. You know, these are stress, sleep, mindfulness, and eating apps. So they're really targeted. They're becoming way more popular, not just in the States, but across the globe. So there has been just a wider educational conversation going on, or a curiosity as well. And also there's been a lot more funneling of government money. So there's been that prioritization, that identification and acceptance of, hey, this is a crisis. And if we don't prioritize and invest in this crisis, our potential, our human potential, our society potential is going to be impacted significantly in the future. So there is a lot more resources, a lot more opportunity for funding. I would encourage all of you to kind of search, and I'll add on the website, I'll go in after this and maybe add some pages for grants and funding that y'all can follow up on, because there's a ton of support or willingness to support out there. Likewise, in terms of topics, there's been a lot more understanding, or at least a lot more identification, that some of the bigger mental health topics are around anxiety, around depression, around social isolation. So how do we continue to build those bonds of human interaction? And how do we gain awareness of ourselves to help ourselves in moments of crisis? Because anxiety and depression are super crippling. And as we know with behavioral health, there are techniques that can help us reclaim our wellness and reclaim our baseline of health. I would say those are the main sort of takeaways since COVID.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, if I can add one more, with the younger demographics, so with youth, I've noticed that with the transition to on-screen education, so Zoom schooling and also face masks, there's been an increase in social anxiety. So youth not understanding or feeling uncomfortable, feeling anxious when interacting with others in person, virtually even as well on screen, but especially in person. So that's a really unique one. Yes, especially in large groups. Definitely, Jessa. Thank you for that.
I would love, I'm so curious. I recently had a large group out of like 60 or so students in an activity that almost always lands really fell flat. And so we completely transformed our whole process to do a lot more like partner-based work, building up to larger groups and those kinds of things. So I just want to super echo that. But my actual question is, we talk a lot about wellness and well-being, and I believe that mental health is a small subset of that. I'm curious if you could provide either examples or research resources or just places that you've experienced where there are those other components of wellness that are addressed outside of mental health, utilizing the outdoors. That's a big push that we're starting to feel, is wanting that bigger picture wellness to be addressed, not just mental health. And how do we do that using outdoor spaces?
Definitely. That's a great question, Jessa. I honestly feel like the outdoor space in our history, like all our different modalities, outdoor education, outdoor development, outdoor therapy, all these modalities have in some point or another been trying to synthesize holistic health, right? And holistic health, I define as mind, body, so physical, mental, and social emotional well-being. And again, in some capacities, in some sectors, it's been done unofficially and sometimes officially. But I really do think that the biggest strength that we have is being transparent and intentional about those goals. So if we are creating an outdoor program, naming that, okay, maybe the main goal or the most obvious goal is recreation, or maybe it's physical health, or maybe it's mental health, as you were saying, but then highlighting and making it known to your audience, depending on where they're at in their baseline level of knowledge, that really is just a subset, right? That all of these are interconnected, because when you work on your physical health, you also work on your mental health and vice versa. And when you work on your social emotional health, you also work on your mental health and vice versa. So really being intentional about connecting those dots for your participants. And then a lot of the activities we have already are intersectional in the sense that they do work a physical aspect, a social emotional aspect, or a mental health aspect. So again, really trying to tap into those strengths. So maybe we have an activity that we use often and it does tap all those aspects. It's intersectional in the well-being point, but maybe we haven't emphasized the social aspect. Maybe we've been really emphasizing the sensory aspect. Maybe we've been emphasizing just the physical aspect. So really trying to see, okay, what current activities, what current processes do we currently have that we're using, and what are new ways to integrate a holistic lens? I'm happy, I'm not sure if that answered your question, Justin. I'm happy to dive into specific examples, or if like you have, something specific that you want me to tackle, if you want to give me a prompt.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I guess what I'm hearing is that, so what I'm hearing or what I'm understanding or pulling from it is that, so much of when we talk about like nature and wellness, we focus so hard on the mental health aspects, but getting our participants to able and giving them the tools to identify the other parts of their wellness that are being addressed is really the key. And like being intentional about framing it so that there is that opportunity for acknowledgement that all of those components are part of the process.
I really do think so. I really do believe that. I think, again, outdoor adventure is such a nuanced way of modality of programming, and that we do hit all those aspects. And of course, there's there's ways of being way more intentional. So really trying to dive into the research and particular activities. But as a whole, I would say a really easy jumping off spot is, seeing what already is being done in the current programming and how can we highlight the holistic aspect of health.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessa. Any other questions? Awesome. I think that's it. Well, I really, really appreciate everyone's time and energy. Looking forward to staying connected. Definitely have an open door policy. If you have questions, ever want to just thought partner, feel free to reach out. And thanks again to AORE, Janet, and Rebecca for the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and everyone, thank you for making yourself available for follow-up. Hopefully people found a lot of value, and Rebecca just put in the chat box kind of a quick evaluation that allows us to make sure that our programming is on point, and that you're kind of finding that value as we continue to program out. So if there's things you'd like to have AORE do more of and bring your way, please let us know. If we're hitting the notes and doing the right thing, please confirm that. And if we need to, again, go a different direction, please advise as well. So with that, thank you so much all again, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Bye.